This is a follow-up to my previous video where I proactively replaced the capacitors in my air conditioning units and did some spring cleaning. Just like in the prior video, I want to see if an ordinary homeowner like myself who has no prior HVAC experience or training can effectively and safely replace my air conditioning contactor switches after studying at what I call the University of YouTube. In some ways, this experience was a disaster. Not the part of the job where I physically replaced the contactors, that part was easy. The disaster was the shopping. As a homeowner and not an AC technician, finding quality replacement parts that exactly match all the specs on the parts I'm replacing was unbelievable. I was thinking all I need to do is order the right part number, make sure the specs on the stickers match, and it's all easy street, right?
Genius? Not so much.
Before we get to that, let's answer a couple questions you might be asking right now. Why am I proactively replacing parts on a 5-year-old air conditioner that aren't broken yet?
I don't know. That's a good question.
It's because I remember times when it's been 115 degrees in the summer and my AC has died. Then I call the AC guys and I'm in the queue for their services along with 100 other sweltering people who are suffering with the same issue. And then I pay hundreds of dollars for the easy replacement of a fairly cheap part which I could have done myself if I had educated myself just a little. Because the reality of these air conditioner parts, especially the contactor, is that they're like your car tires. They're made to wear out over time. So it's not a question of whether they're going to wear out, it's only a matter of when. This is a new contactor switch before I put it in, and you can see how the surface of the contact right here is nice and smooth and brand new. During the summer season, this contactor may cycle several thousand times, and every time it does, there's a tiny arc of electricity as it's closing, and with every arc, there's an amount of material that gets removed from one side of the contactor and transferred to the other. After a time, there isn't enough material present to make a connection, and then your air conditioner won't start. This is one of my old contactors after I took it out, and you can see here it already has a big chunk of material missing in it, and that's after only 5 years of use. So on to the next question. Why don't I just buy the new part and keep it on the shelf? Well, because I want to know if the part works before the return policy expires, and because I want to keep the slightly used part that I know works as my spare. This actually worked in my favor when I went out to video the replacement of the contactors and realized I had the wrong one for the bigger AC unit.
Me lose brain? Uh-oh.
But since I realized it early, I was able to return it for a refund. That same day, I went on to replace the contactor in the smaller AC unit, which is what you're watching now, and discovered that the jackwagon installer took the cover off the top of the contactor so it could, I don't know, collect dust, rain, bugs, you name it, so thanks for that.
You jackwagon!
And to top it off, my regular AC service company has conducted one spring air conditioning tune-up for me since we moved in, and the technician didn't even notice there was no cover on this contactor. During my research, I read one posting where a spider crawled into the contactor and electrocuted itself, in the process ruining the contactor and disabling the air conditioner, so this cover's a good idea. Anyway, the next order I placed for the larger AC unit had one set of specification numbers in the description and another set in the photos. I ordered that one on a roll of the dice, and of course it turned out their photos were wrong, so I had to return that one also. The shopping experience was complicated by the fact that I wanted all of the numbers on the side sticker, meaning the amperage and voltage ratings and so on, to be an exact match for what I'm replacing, since I don't know enough to say whether something slightly different would even be appropriate. And since we're working with significant voltages, I'm assuming getting it wrong would be bad.
Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
I had instant success finding the first contactor for the smaller AC unit at Amazon, but the second one I ended up finding the right one at Technical Hot and Cold Parts. They had a great website and it had a very complete reference for the exact part I needed. The contactor and the shipping were a little more expensive, but I wanted the exact part and I got it. And it also came in a sturdy cardboard box, securely packed with packing paper, instead of what the Big River Delivery Company did, which was just put the contactor in a plastic envelope with no packing at all. The replacement went fine, but took a little quirk when I needed to buy an extra tool, as if I need much motivation to buy a new tool, but we'll get to that. The little quirk came when I noticed the label on the side of the contactor that said torque for screws is 22 pound-inches and for lugs it's 40 pound-inches. Turns out there's such a thing as a torque screwdriver. Who knew? I figured I should do it right, so I bought one. I'm glad I did because the torque on the screws was a lot less than what I thought it would be, and on the lugs it was a lot more than I would have thought. Apparently when you're running 240 volts, it's kind of important to have a good connection. So, to summarize, here's the whole process I used when doing the actual replacement. First, turn off the thermostat. Pull the disconnect. Remove the cover. Check to see if there's still any live power. Take a reading for any remaining DC voltage in the capacitor. If there is, you need to discharge it. Then we're going to swap out the contactor, connector by connector, one at a time, so they all go in the same place they came from. Then we're going to tighten down the screws using the correct setting on the torque screwdriver and then the lugs on the bottom. Remember to wiggle those large stranded wires at the bottom occasionally so they seat properly and don't loosen up. Next, we test it. That was a job well done. Now it's time to enjoy the fruits of my efforts. Feel free to join me. If you enjoyed this video, check out some of my other ones.